few months ago, I was out on a morning walk with Adrianne and got an unexpected call from a familiar voice. Since then, we've spoken a few times and thought, why not roll tape on one and see where it goes? Today seemed as good a day as any to do just that. Here's a brand new conversation between me and Bill Wadman.
Good morning.
The lights just flickered. I hope that's not a sign.
All the power in Jeffrey's it goes out at the same time.
Yeah. What happened? First I couldn't find my coffee, then the lights flicker, then I don't even know. Oh my
How much worse could it get?
Yeah, I don't ask that. Don't even tempt it. Don't.
I'm honestly just not going to really watch the news today. I think I might just go to sleep tonight and wake up in the morning.
Yeah, but you know,
it's going to stress me out.
But that's what I did last time, and look what happened.
Okay, but yeah.
Somehow it's my fault. Had I stayed up.
Okay, the only thing that makes me feel better about all of this, and I don't want to spend the whole time talking about the election, but just one thing to say is that I was listening to Nate Silver was talking last night on the last podcast they're doing before the election.
Right.
And he says, look, Trump won a very, very slim election last time. And he got a whole bunch of people, independents, that he does not have now. So just from like just a large scale macro view of the whole thing, you know, if he barely made it by the skin of his teeth last time in some of these places in the upper Midwest, and now all of that shifted 5, 6, 8, 10 points to the left, like mathematically, it's almost impossible for him to win unless the polls are so far off, like twice as far off as they were last time. So that like at least makes me go, okay, look, I wouldn't want to be, if you and I, if the whole thing was reversed and Biden was where Trump is right now in the polls, you know what I mean? You'd think he had no chance.
Right.
So that gives me at least a little bit of, okay, just breathe for a minute. Don't freak out. Although some woman that I went to high school with, apparently her and her husband, who I also went to high school with, who I didn't know that they got married. Like they got married years later and they never dated in high school or anything. She put up this long, like 2,000 word tirade on Facebook this morning. I had to unfollow her.
Wow.
Where she was basically, they're like crazy homeschool Christians who think that Trump is like saving the world for Jesus Christ. And you know what I mean? Like all this like crazy.
Right. Well, they're similar really in their behavior and beliefs. Yeah, well, sure.
Renewable energy is the devil's work. Like this kind of like crazy stuff where you're like,
not a lot of people know that Christ grabbed Mary Magdalene right by the...
You know, I was actually going to look up Antichrist today because I think Trump actually fits the general description of the Antichrist.
Don't do that.
No, he gives you everything you want, not realizing that he's using you the whole time.
Don't give him any more power. Don't. I think it's like Beetlejuice. If you say his name 3 times, then he sticks around for another term.
You know, we watched that the other night, Beetlejuice.
Does it hold up?
No.
Yeah.
Well, Michael Keaton's great. The first like half of it's pretty great. The 2/3 to the end, the third act is not great.
You know what I never liked about that flick? The dance at the dinner table, like the song and the dance. At the dinner table.
Yeah. That's the part everyone else did like.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Actually, the thing that bothers me, there's a scene where they're cutting, they shrink down to the model size and they're digging Beetlejuice up.
Right.
The model, and they're pulling like cardboard and foam and whatever it is, and some of the cardboard has writing on it, which it wouldn't if it was that size.
Yeah, if that was that small. I mean? Yeah, it wouldn't be that small.
That breaks like the...
Catherine O'Hara is fantastic in Schitt's Creek, if you have not seen Schitt's Creek.
I have not watched it. I've heard really good things. Here's my question, though. Is it cringe comedy or is it like good comedy? You know
both. Both.
Okay.
Both.
Yeah.
It took
comedy...
It took us the first season and a few episodes to really get into it. Like all through the first season, I was like, I don't know if I like this, because I had expectations about what it should be or what I thought it was going to be. Having gone back and watched some of those episodes in the first season my 7-month-old or 7-month past self was wrong. It is funny. I don't know. The writing is fun. I'm sure there's a lot of improv because Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara, that's kind of their thing with Christopher Guest and that whole crew.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's good.
We've watched that Ted Lasso 3 times just because it's something that doesn't make you sad.
Ted Lasso makes me very happy.
It's kind of all positive, and you're like, yes, the world needs more of this right now.
Brett Goldstein, the guy who plays Roy, he has a podcast called Films to be Buried With, where he talks to people and says, okay, you've died, and we're going to look now back on your life through your favorite movies. And it's really clever. It's really cute.
Okay, I will. Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah, I'll take a look at that. Apparently, they only pulled him in because they couldn't find anybody to play the role of Roy. And then in the end, they were like, "You're going to do it," and he's like, "I don't want to do it."
Huh.
But it totally worked. So it's kind of,
it's. I have a thing for characters and apparently actors named Roy. There's something, I don't know why it is. Like some of my favorite characters and actors are named Roy.
Wait, what other Roys are we talking about?
Roy Hobbs from The Natural.
Sure, yeah.
Roy Scheider, his real name, but of course, yeah. Roy Scheider. Yeah. Roy Batty from Blade Runner, of course.
Wow, you're running them out now.
Right? Roy Neary, Close Encounters. Completely forgot about him. Richard Dreyfuss.
Are you looking him up now?
I am now. I'm looking at this list because I forgot.
If you were coming up with that off the top of your head, I really would be impressed.
Would have been really impressed. Roy Lee, October Sky, of course, good movie. Jake Gyllenhaal's first movie.
That was Jake's first movie?
Yes.
Wait, is he the main lead kid? I always picture it also as Tobey Maguire, but it's not Tobey Maguire. It's
no.
Okay.
No. Tobey Maguire was Cider House Rules, which I think came about the same time. Didn't it come out at the same time?
Yeah. Similar, and they're both sort of era, period pieces.
Yeah.
It's weird. The movies and TV. We've been watching all kinds of stuff lately, that you normally wouldn't watch. You know what I mean? Just because being stuck inside so much.
Right.
And a lot, man, there's a lot of, we watched Scream a couple weeks ago, which I don't think I had ever actually seen when it came out. And,
Is that the one with the girl from Party of Five?
Yeah.
Neve Campbell? Neve Campbell?
Is it Neve or Nev? Which is
I don't know. One of those.
Anyway, yeah, it's her and a bunch of other people, a bunch of other sort of famous-y people, Matthew Lillard and Drew Barrymore.
Oh, Matthew Lillard, serial killer from Hackers.
Yeah, serial killer. Like Fruit Loops.
Oh, what a movie that was. Lord Nikon. Oh, my God.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, my God.
There's still something about that movie that makes me feel okay, though.
Yeah.
I think there's that one scene when they're doing the competitive thing back and forth where they're in Chinatown and it's just it's like them in Chinatown. And I think Jolie's hunched over a laptop in a seductive hot way. And they're all standing around looking away. And everyone just stands still and they just pan across it like it's a diorama.
Mm.
And it's actually a really beautiful shot. And every time I see it, I go, man, that was a good idea. It just kind of looked cool. You didn't have to have them doing anything. You moved the camera instead of moving the actors, Anyways,
Fisher Stevens, The Plague.
Has Fisher Stevens done anything?
You know what? He other than
theater.
Break up with Michelle Pfeiffer because he thought he could do better.
Does he own a mirror?
How's that going for you?
Oh, it's so sad.
Oh, sorry,
it's such
Fisher.
A sad. Yeah,
he will always be Mr. Johnny Five.
Oh yeah, Johnny
Short Circuit.
Five.
Sure.
Man, see all these '80s movies. Anyway, Scream. Everyone always talked about it. Oh, it's such an inventive horror film, and this, that, and the other thing. And we watched it, and I was like, is it really?
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Yeah, it was. I guess it was of its time, whatever that means, And Kevin Williamson wrote it, the guy who did Dawson's Creek.
Oh, yeah, Dawson's Creek, sure.
Which, by the way, I have been watching on the rower occasionally when I need something just to fill up 40 minutes. First season's still really well
Courtney Cox is in that movie. Wow.
Yeah, she's the reporter, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen this movie. Drew Barrymore.
Well, Jeffrey, it's November 3rd. You can't watch it now. It's after Halloween.
I can't watch it.
It's not available.
Oh, David Arquette.
So, by the way, are you recording on your end?
Yeah.
I was looking at, so there's that, I might have mentioned it a million years ago because I got it a few years ago, that David Hockney book. It's like a history of pictures, which is actually really good. It's like him and this other guy, and it's just them bouncing back and forth, like writing a paragraph apiece with I think they just did an interview with these guys and transcribed it. But whatever they're referring to, if they're referring to some painting or some photograph or some whatever, they stick it in the book. It's like a picture book. So you're reading it and everything they actually mention and are talking about, you can actually see like on the next page or on the page.
Wait, which is it? Hockney Pictures?
History of Pictures, I think.
History of Pictures. Hold on, I'm looking it up. Oh, okay, here we go. History of Pictures for Children?
No, let's see.
Oh, they have a children's version of it. Okay, History of Pictures from the Cave to the Computer. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. It's a really neat book, and if you look at some of the inside pictures, you'll see like what I'm talking about. How it's like sort of it's just them talking, and then it'll have examples of whatever they're talking about next.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
It's actually really good, and it's very interesting because these people, are looking at this stuff in a very large scale. I think the Martin Gayford is a gallery guy or he's some museum person. So they're both obviously very learned people. But anyway, I was rereading it last night, and there was a part where they get up to this whole section where they're talking about sort of the 19th century transition from photography to painting, or painting to photography, or the intersection between the two. And both of these guys are obviously, Hockney does photographic stuff, but he's mostly known as a painter. They obviously have their hearts in the painting world. But they were saying that everyone in the 19th century figured that photography told the truth, but it doesn't. Oftentimes, painting tells the truth more than photography does. And I was thinking about that, and I go,
tell that to Pollock.
Yeah, is that true? Or
I don't see that. How could that even be?
Yeah, like sort of like that. There's. I always think of photography, assuming you're not manipulating it in crazy ways and whatever, as a largely objective reality of like, well, that's what was in front of the lens when they hit the button.
Right.
You could choose where you're pointing it. You could choose all kinds of things, but ultimately that's what was there. Hockney, there was one example they give where it was like this guy's painting of this mountain in the distance. I think it was like a Delacroix or some. Anyway, it was a painting in the distance. I'll take a picture and send it to you. Painting in the distance. Then there was like a photograph of the same place that some guy went and made later. And it was like a 19th century kind of crappy, monochrome photograph that wasn't that great just because of the technology and stuff. But he was saying, as you can see, the painting is much more whatever, because basically his argument was that when somebody's painting, they're looking at the thing they're painting binocularly. So they're kind of seeing around something and maybe painting they're painting things that the camera can't see because the camera's looking at it through one eye.
Yeah, but they're still interpreting it.
Yeah.
It's still completely subject to interpretation and skill and, color palette and text.
Right.
I think seems to be a strange argument.
Is that because it's going through a human, it's more truthful to humans because it's a reaction to how we actually how one person actually saw that. Yeah, I don't know either, but it just made me think. I just thought you'd be.
I look at these kinds of books, and the first thing that typically pops into my head is, my God, this was expensive to get all the licensing for this.
Oh my God, you have no idea. There's
who can afford to do a book like this, right? Licensing all of these images.
There's 1,000 illustrations of paintings and photographs. Yeah, most of it is probably in the public domain. You know what I mean? Like at least the photographs.
Still, you've got to get high-res things from various museums and collections, and I'm sure there's hoops to jump through for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, all I can think of is how much goddamn money this costs.
Yeah, I texted Bill the other day because I was looking at the Anton Corbijn.
Anton Corbijn.
Yeah. Anton released a new book on Depeche Mode. And for those of you who don't know, Anton and Depeche Mode have collaborated for 40 years, right? Since pretty much the beginning, right? And so he created
similar
this
to his book, by the way, with Tom Waits.
Yes. Yeah. Although I think much more expensive. Anyway, so it's this limited edition book. It's big. It's through Taschen, I think.
Wait, how big? Like one of those giant ones that sits on a pedestal?
No, not that big. Not that big.
Okay.
But pretty good size. Limited to 1,783 copies for the limited edition, and then there were other editions that came with prints. But this book was $900.
Wait, why 1,783? Does that have some?
Or, I'm sorry, 1786. I don't know. Maybe they did 1,800 and they had copies to give away or so. Who knows?
Okay, no, I was wondering if it had some sort of Depeche Mode significance. Like
not that I'm aware of.
They ever wrote
any Depeche Mode. Oh, wait, collector's edition. Wait,
buy it now.
Wait, collector's edition number 201 to 1986.
It's a different book.
Each sign, I don't know. Anyway, it's 12 and a half by 17 inches, and it's 512 pages. But
12 and a half by 17, 512 pages.
So it's a big book.
Yeah.
Point being, it sold out in like a week at $900. So they made almost $2 million.
Okay. First of all, there's a lot of
like 1.7 million, let's say.
I think that there are a lot of rich Depeche Mode fans.
I'm not one of them. I'm a fan, but I'm not about to pay $900 for a book.
Yeah. But there's a bunch of, Gen X people who made good money who are just like, I love Depeche Mode and I'm going to buy this expensive book because I have money. So at least 1,600 and whatever of them. How many of those people do you think, though, are buying it because so many of the other books, like even I have a copy of I have two copies, I think, of the Tom Waits one, which I paid, $200 for? Right. Which now the used ones go for $800.
Do they really? Is it not much?
Well, it's $647 is the cheapest used one, and then there's new ones for that's all the used ones, and then the new ones. Hold on a second, let's just see. The new ones go for $849 for the cheapest one, $1,232 for the more expensive ones. So theoretically, if I put one of mine up for $800, it would probably sell in the next month or so, right? You know what I mean? And I would.
Yeah, I mean, $200 for a book, for the right book, I would pay it. Like if Chris Ashworth is coming out with a new book, if his book is $200, I'll buy it.
How many of these people, though, who bought the Depeche Mode saw what happened with the Tom Waits book or other books and said, "Oh, this is a good investment"?
Well, so that's the thing. Are photo books going the way of art and photography, and people are buying them just because they're collectible and it will sit on a shelf in shrink wrap or in a box or whatever, never to be sort of flipped through?
I think that they're for very specific limited edition ones. Yeah. I mean, it's, basically, no, it's not that art photography books are going the way of art. It's photography books are going the way of sneakers, right? Like where people are sticking them in a box in plastic up on a shelf. And they need to get that one that day, that size, and you know what I mean, like all that. You were never a sneakerhead person.
No.
Did you know people who were sneakerheads?
I know people now who do the whole like. There are shows that you can go to, I guess, like trade shows. Instead of a gun show, it's a sneaker show.
I'd rather go to the sneaker show.
I don't know. People get really rabid over sneakers.
Yeah, it really stinks there.
I don't know. I've never done it. I know people who are. I've never seen the point, but I've got a closet full of 30 of the same outfit. I've got 27 black V-neck T-shirts and whatever. So I'm not the market.
But I guess, Mike, do you have any books that you bought to not look at?
No, not one. Every book I have, I've opened and looked through. There are some that I don't look at as much, but no, everything I have I look at because that's why I buy them.
Right. How many $100 on average sort of art, photography, painting book kind of things, the kind of non-reading books do you think you have? I'm just a ballpark. 50, 100?
Yeah, probably close to 100.
Yeah. And how often do you actually pull one down and look through it?
Depends. I was looking through a Shepard Fairey book the other day, and let's see. What's out? Because I take them out. Kappa Color is out. Elliot Erwitt's New York and Paris 2-volume set is out. And hold on, I can't put my glasses on. I can't see across the room. Tim Walker's picture book is out.
Do you take them out for reference, for inspiration purposes?
No, I just take them off the shelf so that I can flip through them, and then I put them back on the shelf when I'm done.
Oh, interesting.
Or sometimes I'm looking for a specific thing. With the Shepard Fairey book, it's Supply and Demand is the book I was looking at. And it's just because I watched this little mini documentary about him the other day and was reminded about how complicated his process is and how many steps and layers he goes through to get to his final pieces, his originals, not his silkscreens. And I just wanted to go through and look at some of them again, because if all you've seen, we're talking about Shepard Fairey, Obey Giant, if all you've ever seen are his screen prints, you're missing out on a ton of detail that he puts into his original collage pieces. He makes all of his own source material and then makes his own collage paper from that source material, and then stencils and paints on top of that to create more sort of background material before he ever gets to the main sort of focal point of the piece. So there's just a ton of stuff going on, and I have
That's
had
right up your alley too.
Yeah, I've had an enormous amount of respect for him for years. He's one of those people that I feel kind of bad for him, because in most of the interviews that he does, it starts with, well, how did you get into this? Why stickers? Why, blah, blah. And he's got to tell that same story about, my friend wanted to learn how to screen print and want to make stickers. So I told him, like, that whole thing. So
I think he's got enough money. He can deal with the pain of having to do that.
Well, it's just lazy on the part of people who.
Well, that's the case of interviews with so many people, right?
Quit it. Stop asking the same questions. Stop it.
Yeah. Does he have a team of people that
Yes.
do some of his work
for
him?
Yeah. Because he's got Studio One is their gallery space, and then his actual workspace is called the Deuce, and he's got he oversees everything, but he's got people doing some of the process work behind the scenes. Yeah,
because especially a lot of this stuff is very labor intensive.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hand cutting all these little stencils he's not sitting there with an X-Acto knife on every single one of them, I wouldn't think.
When they do this kind of stuff, just a quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's, let's say they're making 200 of some poster, right? I've got that Strummerville poster up on the wall, actually, that I bought a couple of years ago for Heather. That at the beginning of all this, I was like, I should let's get these things out of the closet and actually put them on the walls during the Corona, So I ordered some frames and we put some stuff up, and that's one of them.
Is it the one where he's got kind of his hands crossed in front of him? That one?
He's holding a guitar. Joe Strummer holding a guitar. It's this Strummerville. It's red background. I'll find it and send you a thing. Strummerville.
That one. Okay, I got that. Yeah. Okay.
And so he's making something like that. He's making, 200 of them or whatever it is, right? So this is maybe 4 or 5 colors, something like that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Layers, somewhere around there. Is he doing 100 of them or all of them with the first layer, then all of them with the second layer? Or is there
I would imagine
layer 1 and then passing it to the next person who's doing layer 2 who's passing the next
I would imagine they do them all one and then all. And I don't know. I've talked to him about his actual process of it, where he takes the stencils that he's cut, scans them, cleans them up in Illustrator, and it ends up being this multi-layered, super intense digital process that kind of mirrors his analog process. It's really fascinating.
Oh, interesting. But does he then?
And then those Illustrator files are then used to make the screens.
Laser cut screens or something like that.
I would imagine, or they're cut by. a lot of the stuff that he does is he's still using Rubylith and cutting by hand. But
it's interesting though that it's not too far away from people who do contact prints in photography.
Yeah, it's real similar. It's real similar.
When they do the analog digital thing where they scan a thing and then put curves on it and then print it out on a acetate.
Right. As kind of an internegative.
Yeah, like an internegative, a digital internegative. Yeah. I had no idea that he did that. Okay. Well, see, that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, his stuff, I've never been one of those people who's like crazy drawn to his stuff, but I have a lot of respect for his work. You know what I mean? It's like one of those kinds of people.
I much prefer, I respect where he's going, bringing in more colors and bringing in sort of different types of hatching and shading and that kind of thing. But I really like the stuff from like 2004 to 2009, 10, 11. That's some of my favorite stuff. And that's the stuff that I collect.
Interesting. Costs a lot of money to collect that stuff now.
Now it does. Yeah.
Yeah. It's such a weird thing. All right. So you had his book out. Was that as an inspiration thing? Or
I'm just thinking about, you know what, it's all thinking about what comes next, right? What comes next? If
for you or for the world?
Both. For me in the world, if it goes one way, and then for me in the world, if it goes the other way. If it goes one way, does talking about art and photography and process, is that relevant? Is that meaningful? Or does the conversation need to change if we're on our way down this weird sort of path? Or I don't know. So I'm just
change to what? To become more primary? I mean, for lack of a better word, like more front lines somehow?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it just, you know, if we're, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know what it all means. I'm really anxious about the whole thing. I've been anxious about it for months. And I'm just trying to figure out
48 months.
Yeah, right. Trying to figure out what comes next, both for me and for all of us. And if it goes south, what do I want my involvement to be beyond? So you were inspired by Avedon. That's great. I mean, that sure. Just seems largely irrelevant at that point, but maybe it becomes even more relevant. Maybe that, you know, it gets us back to artistic monkhood, right? Where these things are more important because they're surrounded by hate and fear and, you know,
sure.
all that other stuff.
You know, I was watching a couple episodes of Song Exploder on Netflix.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Rishi's doing that show on Netflix.
That's so great. I love the podcast. I'm so thrilled for him that it got turned into a series. I'm really looking forward to the Trent Reznor one.
It was really funny though, because when they stopped at episode 100 or whatever of the podcast, I kept thinking to myself, wait, why would he walk away from this? Like in the back of my head, I was like,
right.
This doesn't make any sense. Like, you know,
what's going on here?
And then I actually met him. I guess it was last year. He came over here and I took his picture. Did
he say anything about it?
No, he didn't.
Really?
And well,
cagey.
No, but he was also in town to do a West Wing Weekly thing. So we talked a little bit about that. You know, we talked about that stuff, which was fun. But yeah, I mean, maybe it was still like the deal was sort of, maybe they had an idea and were still pitching it around at that point. It's not like those episodes take a ton of time to do. I mean, You got to go do the interviews, and then he has teams of people. It's also interesting. He seems to have, he has like animators, you know, working on stuff.
Right.
And that really helps. Anyway, the point of bringing it up is just to say that I was watching the one about, I guess it was the REM one, and then even the Hamilton one. And just thinking, it kind of made me feel better to go back to what you were saying, in the sense that a single person's output or a single group's output are like, no, we sat down and we wrote this song and it became this big deal, but we were just doing it to write this song because we wanted to do something different. Because we
needed so number 7 slot on the record needed to be filled.
Exactly. And to some extent, looking at it on a more micro thing and saying, I don't need this thing that I'm doing to change the world. I just need to make it. If it ends up changing the world as you and I have always said, that's out of our control.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That the best I can do, and maybe it really isn't about thinking big and trying to change the world, but it's about not everyone, but it's about thinking small and making the thing that you're doing the best that you can do. And that's, I was listening to one of those happiness podcasts about stoicism yesterday.
Yeah.
And there's a whole idea.
People
in
love the
stoicism.
Stoics, man. I was turned on to them by Sean Tucker, and
yeah, it's a recent thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were talking to this woman who's some PhD woman who runs the class at Yale. I'm sorry, I forget her name. Was talking to this guy who wrote this book that she liked, and they were just saying that if you go and you play a tennis match and you lose the tennis match, that's not necessarily that you lost the tennis match. What was the point of you going out there?
Tell that to McEnroe.
But it was for you to go. If you played better than you'd ever played before and you still lost, well, then you still played better than you ever played before. So stop, obsessing about it too much. It was, where's the,
but that's a hard one to get to, because you're always going to think, man, if I had only done X, if I had only, I don't know anybody who can just walk away from something that they don't second guess it or think it through in their heads or go back and go, well, what can I have done differently? That's a hard one to get to for me.
Oh, it absolutely is. But wait, there's something really interesting in here. Here it is. Okay, here we go. The Stockdale Paradox. So James, this is they bring up James Stockdale, who was Ross Perot's vice presidential candidate. Do you remember this guy?
Yes.
He was okay. So he was a Vietnamese or a POW in Vietnam,
right?
For a long time. And he apparently famously was this stoic. Like as he was going down in the plane, he thought to himself, the next 5 years of my life are going to suck. And the only thing I can do is basically just to answer what's right in front of me. And that's all I can do. And so when he got back, this is a Wikipedia thing. It's a really good quote. James Collins related a conversation he had with Stockdale regarding his coping strategy during his period in the Vietnamese POW camp. When Collins asked which prisoners didn't make it out of Vietnam, Stockdale replied, quote, "Oh, that's easy. The optimists. Oh, they were the ones who said, we'll be out by Christmas, and then Christmas would come and Christmas would go. And then they'd say, we'll be out by Easter, and Easter would come and Easter would go. Then Thanksgiving, and then it would be Christmas again, and they died of a broken heart. This is a very important lesson. You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they may be." And I was it's there is this certain amount of, I think that a lot of people, and I'm not saying that it's necessarily wrong, are trying to take the literal weight of the world and put it on everyone's trying to put it on their shoulders. You know what I mean? Like, I need to fix this thing, or I need to be part of the movement that fixes this thing. Maybe that's true, but you also have to understand that there are things you can control and there's things you can't control. And, maybe somebody writing a song about Alexander Hamilton or Aaron Burr, was like a moment for them, and then became a moment for other people later. It's maybe it's like I can't change the world, but I can change myself in some small way, and maybe that gets out there and changes other people.
Right.
And maybe that's the better way to go about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've played this thing through 1,000 times in my head, and I don't know what my answer is. I just need to keep doing what I'm doing. Whether I can change that or sort of steer this in a different direction, I can want to do that, and maybe I can even do some things to encourage that. But ultimately, it's kind of going to go where it wants to go.
Yeah, sure. I mean, do you think it changes at all based upon our ages? We're all 4 years older than we were 4 years ago, and you know what I mean?
I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Is it age? Is it experience? Is it a combination of? I think both can be true.
Yeah,
yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I keep not coming back to, but in my head, I keep kind of thinking the old adage of, this your rehearsal is the final performance. You know what I mean? Like
right.
your life is what it is, and when it's over, you don't get to do it over again with the lessons you've learned. You know, and you know, I'm 5 now, be 46 in January. Yeah, and it's you know, and I see a lot of people around me making moves and doing things, and it's like, oh, is that what I want from my life? What that person is doing with theirs? Like, no, okay, well then, don't worry about what they're doing, or you know what I mean? Like playing sort of these, trying to, because it's so hard to define. I think what it is we're all trying to get out of life, or we all have general ideas of what we want to. Oh, we want to be happy. We want to, you know, do good work. We want to do whatever. But the specifics of that are a lot harder, you know.
Yes, and you still end up comparing. You know you're comparing your middle to somebody else's end.
Sure.
It's unfair, and we do it all the time. But yeah. I don't know.
I mean you've been painting a lot more during the lockdown, right?
Oh yeah, I'm closing in on 70 something paintings now. Right. I'll be, if I keep up this pace, I could get to 100 by year's end.
Okay, and does that accomplishment, for lack of a better term, like do something for you? Like, does that make you feel different than you did before? Okay.
Absolutely, because it's just doing the work. It's getting out of my own way. And the big, well, I don't want to say it that big. One of the big sort of turning points in it was making it a task about getting the work done, not going, well, you know, what is it? What do I want to say? And what do I want to? How do I want these to be received? And when I took audience,
downstairs to make a painting.
Yeah, when I took audience and monetization and expectation beyond the studio walls out of the equation, when I took everything beyond the studio walls out of the equation and just said, okay, you've got 54 blank panels here that need to have something on them. But back then, by your birthday, right? That was the goal, I had done this one series of 12 paintings, right? And done them all at the same time, working on 12 simultaneously. And then went, okay, how can I get, you know, X number done, 53 done by my 53rd birthday? Well, then it's math, right? I've either got to do X number per day or X number per week. And it just became, it's the Chuck Close quote, right? Where it's the, you know, inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just get to work. I've been waiting for something to say, but what I found was in doing the work,
found something to say.
Yeah, different things to say manifested out of doing the work. Yep. And that's continued for, you know, when did I start them? I don't know, April, May. So it's continued all through, and it works for me. Making them as almost assignments, right? Yeah, sure. You know, like, look, you and your photo a day projects, your 365 projects. It's not necessary. Yes, you got to have a concept, and yes, you want to have something to say. Yes, there's got to be, you know, aesthetics and all that. But at the end of the day,
being done is the important.
You got to get it done, right? Yeah, right. And are all of those photos home runs? No, but are they all done? Absolutely. And same with these paintings. Are all of these paintings home run? Not by a long shot. Are they all finished? Yes.
What would stop you from falling off that path? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's
the results today?
You're funny that you think we're going to get results today.
Yeah, right. What would stop?
Like, you sound good. You sound like you're activated. You sound like you're engaged. There have been other times when all of us have been deep in the thick of it, feeling good, on a high or on a roll, and then somehow stopped.
I mean, the truth of the matter is it is going to stop, because I work I'm not consistent. I've never been consistent. I work in fits and starts. I work in bursts of output, and then I do nothing for a while. And then bursts of output, and then I do nothing for a while. It has been the biggest Achilles heel in all of my podcasts, is my lack of consistency. Yeah. So, you know, what do I do? Well, okay, so I've decided that that starting in 21, Process Driven, for example, is going to go to a seasonal model. There'll be 2 seasons a year, 2 batches of 12 episodes, because that's the way I work. And I've been trying to fight that for years, and it ends up, nothing ends up happening. So if I go, okay, I'm going to record with these 12 people, I'm going to go edit, sweeten, do all the effects, release them. Then I can move on to something else for a couple months, then start recording again, edit, sweeten, release. And it fits the way I work better. So then I can focus on one thing, get it done, out the door, then move to another thing, get it done, out the door, move to another thing, get it done, out the door. Because ultimately I get not necessarily distracted, although that's part of it, but I get frustrated with working on the same thing over and over again.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So that frustration will often manifest as inaction, and I won't do anything.
Isn't it interesting, though, that you're coming to this realization that instead of trying to fight my nature, I should just flow with my nature. Very, very, very Bruce Lee kind of, be the water kind of thing, right?
Right.
But that there's truth in that, but that truth can be different for different people depending on what their nature is.
100%.
You know what I mean,
I'm not an entrepreneur. I keep trying to be. I keep trying to convince myself that I am an entrepreneur, that I can multitask and I could do this and this and this and this at the same time. And I, like many people, that's not the way I'm built. I don't think that's the way most of us are built. Everybody wants to be Gary V, but there's only one Gary V, right? Everybody wants to be Rogan. There's only one Rogan. I mean, for better or worse. Yeah. It's me finally embracing and trying to work with my strengths instead of trying to force the behavior despite my strengths.
Sure. It's like that. It's in one of those first episodes of Ted Lasso where she's saying, do you want to be a panda or a lion? And then Jamie comes out and he's just like, you want to be a panda? Like, what? I'm me. Why would I want to be anything other than me?
Yeah.
He's just like, you have no idea how, emotionally healthy that is.
Yeah.
It's a little bit. Yeah. I mean, there is this, I'm proud of you in your mid-50s. You finally,
finally figured my shit out.
Well, you're finally like giving yourself a break, which is kind of what it is. I mean, isn't there a certain amount of stress reduction in not trying to fight your nature all the time?
Yes.
He's like, no, there's an entirely new stress.
There are new stresses. I think, yes, there is that, but it's not that there's less stress. I mean, yeah, I guess it kind of is, but it's a realization of what works and what doesn't for now, for this season in my life. Will that change? Probably. Maybe. I don't know. But
well, I mean, yeah, you're right. There's that whole other element of this is you right now. You at 60 or you at 70 might be a different person.
Yeah.
And that's okay too.
Yeah. I mean, it's Yeah.
Sorry, we went deep on that one.
No, it's stuff that I think about a lot, and I feel like despite the whole lockdown and COVID and all that, these past several months have also been, at least creatively, the most prolific of my life.
Yeah.
So, I have to look at why that is. And part of why that is because, well, you can't go do this or this or this. So you've got to go down and paint or go write or, just get the work done. A, so you don't go stir crazy because you're thinking about all this other stuff.
Sure.
But B, when you take out, and believe me, I acknowledge and I am so grateful for the position that I'm in, that I can say I took monetization out of this.
Sure. Yeah.
I understand that is an incredibly fortunate position to be in, but it's also exactly what it took, at least right now, for me to get through it. It's that Days of Thunder, where there's the big crash and, Cruz finally gets through it and I'm out of here. And that was part of it. It's seeing what's on the other side of it, and will this stuff find an audience? I don't know. I don't really care.
Yeah. It's in some ways it's not relevant to all of that is the next chapter. That's not this chapter.
Right. Well, and part of it is like, look at some of the artists that we talk about. Look at some of the whether they're photographers or painters or whatever. Very few, relative to the sort of totality of them, made a living from what they loved.
Yeah,
they did it, but very few became rich and famous.
There were a lot of people in each of those times who did make a lot of money doing it, who we don't talk about at all now.
Exactly. So, it's a balance. Nothing will change unless I do the work, right? You're not going to become a more well-known photographer unless you take photographs.
Take more pictures. Yeah, right.
I mean,
step one, take pictures.
Exactly. So whatever it is that you want to do, the first step in that process should be do that thing, whether that's for you or for your grandmother or your wife or your son or daughter, like whoever you need to do it for, just do the work. That's sure. Step one, right?
Yep, absolutely. It's, even at the problem with this lockdown for me is that I am a portrait photographer, which means I need other people.
Right. Right.
And there was, a good chunk of time when I couldn't be near other people. Like it was, even now it's,
didn't you have like some big project get canceled? Like pretty early on?
Yeah, I got a job in the first week of March. We did one of the shoots and I was supposed to do 9 others over the course of the next 6 weeks. But they were in LA and Chicago and Tennessee. And, they were all over the place. It's like, well, I can't get on a plane right now. Now it's March 15th and there's 3,000 people dead in New York City today.
Right.
So yeah, that kind of stuff happened, but for me, luckily Conrad was basically said, you need something to do.
Right.
And so she took a video of me eating a cheese ball, throwing it up in the air and catching it. And she said, we're going to make a video of you eating a cheese ball each day. And it went from throw a thing up in the air to, me spending 6 hours in Fusion doing composite cheese balls moves. You know what I mean? So, and we did 100 of them in 100 days, right? And we just banged out a little 1 minute mini movie each day. Had to come up with an idea, had to shoot it, had to yell the props, had to whatever, had to work around her schedule if she was involved in it that day, But that gave me something to fixate on, even if in the end it's just like, okay, here's a bunch of stuff. Maybe 10 of them are things that I would 10 or 15 of them are things that I would show somebody else and be just like, see, look at this great idea we had. And this is what we did with an iPhone. You know what I mean?
So what is, okay.
But for me, it was just doing it,
What does that do? Where do you see not just your career, but portrait photography? Where do you see it going? Are you still like, I'm going to pursue this as a portrait photographer? Or do you say, well, even best case scenario, it's another 6 months to a year out before we can do this?
Yeah. There was a time. Yeah. Well, there was a time a couple months ago when I grabbed my camera and I decided to actually I went into Manhattan and I walked around. And I had my camera with me. It was in my bag. And I walked for like an hour and a half. And I didn't take the camera out once because everyone was wearing masks. Everyone was keeping 10 feet away from each other. Like everything was so distant. And the thing that I enjoy making pictures. I think some of my pictures are good. But like what I really get out of doing portraits is being with other people and getting to know other people. And that interaction's like what I feed off of. And so if I couldn't have that, it felt like, well, what are we doing here? I think that, I've gotten a few jobs in the last few weeks where it's like, okay, now we're starting to, sometimes these things still need to get done. You know what I mean? So-and-so has a book coming out. They need an author photo. Okay, I'll go shoot that. So there's magazine needs these people. I got to go get on a bus to go shoot these people. So there's a little bit more of that stuff. Is it to the point where I can't have people at our house without a mask on?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I can't work in a studio, and now it's getting cold out,
yeah.
which is, you know what I mean? Like, so it is interesting. I mean, I've also, you know, I started writing, I wrote a couple scripts, and I've done a couple, I did another short film in February, and I have like 2 more that are like waiting to film, but I can't film because I can't be with people, you know?
Right.
There's a lot of that sort of being with other people thing. It's interesting that in this current situation, in some ways it's good for the work that you do, because the isolation forces you to do it because you have nothing else to do. You know what I'm saying? For lack of a better term.
Well, yeah. And I connect remotely with people for recording, so I don't have to be in the same room with them. I mean, the plan was to be in the same room for the new show, but that had to get shelved, and now it's getting tweaked to like, what do we do now? How do we make this work?
Yeah, and I did I don't know, 6 episodes of Pals with Bill Wadman where I just interview friends of mine for fun. Mm-hmm. I did 6 of those like up on the roof or on their roofs, you know, during.
Oh, so those were in person.
They were in person, but from 6 feet away. You know what I mean? Like we're sitting in chairs far enough away from each other.
Right.
So like I did that, but I don't. The fact that I can't hug the person at the end of it, that it doesn't like ruin it, but it's just sort of like, oh man, this is so frustrating.
It's
you know
different.
What I mean? Like,
yeah,
it really is different. I think that the world will come back in some new form after all of this. I don't think this is forever, but yeah, it sucks right now. I don't know what the alternative is. I mean, I know friends who are. Most of my portrait friends are either working way less than they were before or not working at all. There's a couple that are like working a lot, but not many. My food photographer friends, they're working, like doing ad stuff, but like I've done a little of that stuff and it doesn't really interest me. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. You know, I mean, I have enough work to, you know, survive during the pandemic, so I'm not dying, but like it is really interesting. It does make you, it makes you wonder. It's like, I started writing music again, and I wrote this tune and I recorded all these parts, you know, digitally. And then I said to a friend of mine who plays bass, would you want to play bass on this? He said, yeah. He said, do you mind if I give a shot at some horn parts for it? I was like, sure. And he recorded them he played trombone in high school, and he recorded like 3 parts on a trombone. And then I had like world-class sax, trombone, and trumpet players. I sent the Logic session to them. They recorded, they sent it back. So I did the same thing with organ and keyboards and guitar and like all these different people. And then the guy who's playing Washington and Hamilton right now is this guy Tamar that I met. And I was like, hey, Tamar, you mind giving this a shot? I sent it to him. Tamar sings the song, sends it back to me. And now I have this like amazing singer singing on it. So
that's great that he didn't throw away his shot.
But there is a thing of, okay, well, I can't do all portrait photography right now.
Right.
You do a lot of different things. So do more of those things, you know, which has helped. I think the part of the problem though, Jeffrey, I don't know if for you or for me, is that like, sometimes it feels like it's opening up a little bit and then it closes down and then it opens up. Like, I feel like if you told me, okay, we're not going to get out of this till July 4th of next year, I could put my head down and say, all right, don't even worry about that stuff till July 4th.
Right.
But in the meantime, I have to constantly be, you know, emailing clients and trying to get work and doing this, like all the stuff I normally do, even though sometimes it feels like unproductive.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that stress is still there in the back of my mind. I don't know. It's just, it's, I think it's all of the stress that all of us are dealing with through all this lockdown and coronavirus stuff. I think it's mentally really hard on almost everybody.
Yeah.
Even the people who don't think they're being affected more than they think, you know?
Yeah. And it's not just, I mean, look, we both have friends and connections all over the world, and it's, you know, Australia's going through the same thing. The UK just entered lockdown again. Germany just entered lockdown again. They're predicting that the US is going to get worse, and that what's her name? It's not Fauci. Bricks.
Yeah.
You know, she just said, look, that this is going to get really bad. So
yeah. My friend Sandy in the UK was up late the other night because I saw her comment on something, and I chatted with her and I said, hey, what are you doing up? Go to sleep. And she's like, oh, well, you know, it's like this guy that she lives with, he had to get tested. She had to get tested. You know what I mean? Like it's, so they might be inside for 2 weeks. They might be, it's like, oh God, all the stress of, or, our friend Bianca, who lives down the street, has to have a bone marrow transplant in December. And, for the next 6 weeks is the last 6 weeks that she'll be able to go outside for 8 months. So do I want to talk to Conrad to say, look, if we all get tested, can the 3 of us pod up? Because poor Bianca is going to be alone for 8 months. Let's at least have her be part of our lives for 6 weeks. You know, even if that is some small risk to everybody, let's mitigate the risk as much as we can, because we also have to think about our mental health on top of our physical health. It's really all of this is really interesting. And like you were saying about, you don't know exactly what direction your life is going to go in depending on what happens today or tomorrow. I think that's true for a lot of people. Yeah.
I agree.
So it's, and then we also have the global pandemic.
Right.
And then there's
the escalating climate crisis. And
right. Yeah. Right. And then there's still cops killing people unnecessarily.
Right.
Yeah. So it's,
right.
Yeah, it's good times.
It's, I was thinking about, and I probably won't do it, but I was thinking about just going, certainly not today, but I wanted to, before today, I wanted to go down to one of the museums and just walk through an empty museum, just because that's kind of what I used to do. Yep.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We went to the Met probably a month and a half ago or so, month ago, because they opened up again. You had to get time tickets. They were at 20% capacity or whatever. And just being there and walking around and going, oh God, look, beautiful art.
It sounds like such a weird thing, but it could be.
It's such an elitist thing.
Okay, but here's the thing. Here's where it gets not elitist. Honestly, I feel the same way walking around an empty Target, or going to the grocery store,
or not being able to go see a baseball game, or whatever.
Just some place that you went. I've thought about even just like going and wandering around the metro station, just because there's something normal about it. I haven't been on a train since February.
Long hair. He's wandering around the metro station. We don't know exactly why he's here. Can I get some backup over here?
Just anything. I mean, I guess the museum thing, it almost has nothing to do with the art. It's just because I enjoy the spaces and it's something that I used to do.
Yeah. I mean, for all the people who think, oh, I'm going to move out of New York because I can't do anything that it makes New York special. It's like, well, you will again be able to go to museums. This is not like all these cities are shut down. And honestly, like, where's that much better?
Although today a lot of them are boarded up.
Which is messed up.
Yeah.
Our friend strange. who has an office in Midtown, we were talking to her last night, and she says that it's all boarded up again. Which is just crazy. Yeah. Would you ever thought, 6-8 years ago when you and I met that this would be going on 6-8 years later?
No. I wouldn't have thought this in January. I mean, look, I think you were probably in the same boat. I mean, we thought that, oh wow, this is going to be a real bummer. We're going to listen to science. We're going to have to, knuckle down, and it's going to be a rough few months, and then we'll be back. Here we are, almost a year later, and it looks like it's going to be the better part of another year, even if they do find a vaccine to get it out to people worldwide.
Well, like I've said, my mother's stuck in Thailand. So,
still,
yeah. I haven't seen my mother since January.
Yeah.
Which is weird. It's like my mother lived in another country for a whole year.
Right.
In Southeast Asia. Like what the heck is going on over here? But yeah, it's what is the old Chinese adage? What is may you live in interesting times or something?
Yeah. They are definitely that.
Was that a good luck fortune or a threat?
I don't know.
Here's the last question. Would you rather live in a largely uninteresting time but be unstressed and like relatively happy, or do you rather live through something? I mean, like Heather and I stayed here in the apartment when we could have easily gone to my mother's house for 3 months.
Right.
You know, because we wanted to be where our friends were, and you know what I mean? And like sort of experience this, you know, as be part of it. You know what I mean? Like have that experience as opposed to sort of sticking our head in the sands and being out in the middle of nowhere. Where do you come out on that?
I can't remember. I can't remember a time when I wasn't a worrier. I can't remember a time when I didn't stress about something. Yeah. So, I mean, if I'm
first, it was nukes, and then it was aliens,
yeah, whatever it was, you know. So, if I'm going to stress about something, it might as well be interesting as well. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think what is hard for certainly me and from a lot of people that I've talked to is the onslaught feels relentless, and it feels like it's from every angle.
Yep.
You know, it's Rocky 2 and Clubber Lang is just beating the crap out of Rocky. You can't even see what's going on. There's just, you know, punches landing left, right, and center.
And it's foundational. It's like the stuff that's happening is like there's nothing. We're not sitting on anything and getting pummeled. It's like the floor is sliding around.
Yeah.
Too,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And you kind of look to the left and you go, really? That's still a thing? That's happening?
Yeah.
And then you look to the right. You go, wait a minute. I'm still trying to process what's going on over here. Now I got to deal with that.
Yeah. You think the people will like this?
You know, I think we're going to get a lot of questions that, frankly, I don't think either one of us. I don't think either one of us have answers to yet.
No. Look, I think if we want to talk, we talk. If we don't want to talk, we don't talk. It's like there's like no pressure, no whatever.
Yeah.
All right, go be safe.
All right, you too. Good to talk to you. You can find Bill on Instagram and Twitter at Bill Wadman, or visit his website at billwadman.com. And if you aren't familiar how this whole thing started, visit ontakingpictures.com. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Jeffrey Sidoris, or on my website at jeffreysidoris.com. If you've got questions or feedback or comments, you can email me at talkback@jeffreysidoris.com. And you can get all of my shows, including Process Driven, In Between, Iterations, and more conversations like this one by subscribing to Jeffrey Sidoris Everything, wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks very much for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate your time, and I will talk to you on the next one.
Speaking of Rocky, I watched the training montage from Rocky 4 the other day.
Oh, no.
And there's a scene, you know, when this is the one where Rocky's in Russia and like working out in a barn because, you know,
carrying like he's got his furry coat on and he's carrying the big posts, the big beams out in the snow.
Yeah. Okay. So it's that whole one, but there's parts where he's like got his legs, he's hanging by his legs off the edge of a loft.
Right.
Where Paulie's holding onto his legs and he's doing sit-ups, you know what I mean, from like all the way down and all the way up. And then he kind of comes up halfway and just kind of looks at Paulie. And I was thinking, my God, the muscles that takes. And then it cuts to this scene where he's on his back and he's holding up, he's got his hands on the sides of the table. So the only thing touching the table are his shoulders, and the rest of his body is straight out and up off the table. Like he's lifting his entire body weight, basically, with his abs and his like core muscles. And I'm just thinking, he must have been on steroids, right?
I don't know. I mean, the guy spent hours and hours and hours a day in the gym. I don't know.
Did you know Paulie, the guy who played Paulie, whoever that guy is, was like 38 years old when the first Rocky was made?
Are you serious?
Yeah. You look at him, Jeffrey, he looks like 10 years older than us now.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, he was like 39 years old in 1977.
Wow. Burt Young. Okay.
Burt Young. Yeah.
Really? Wait.
Wait, do the math. I'm pretty sure.
Hold on. Burt Young.
He looks he looks way older than he actually is. It's like a Wilford Brimley kind of thing. Except this one I think was more just weight and drinking.
He's 80 now. Wow. So Rocky came out in what?
So he was
75,
years old.
77?
77, I think.
Wow.
Right? But do you remember him with he's like bald and he's like working in the meat place?
Yeah,
and whatever.
yeah.
You'd think that the dude was 50 years old then.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'm talking like 1970s 50, not like a now 50, you know?
I mean, look at the movies that this guy's been in. While Once Upon a Time in America, Pope of Greenwich Village, fantastic flick. Sopranos, the Rocky series. I mean, he's one of those like, just kind of amazing character actors that every time you see him, you go, oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah. He's definitely like, we need like a Burt Young type.
Yeah.
And somebody says, why don't you get Burt Young?
Why don't you just get Burt Young?
He's still alive?
Yeah.
You know, that's the classic West Wing story, right? About Spencer.
Right.
Yeah. I just, you look at him and you go, my God, how is that guy,
Good for him.
Not that old. Anyway, see, things you learn.
Good for him. Oh, he's also a painter.
Stogies, man. Oh yeah, look at his paintings.
No kidding.
Burt Young artist.
He might be fun to talk to.
Wow, his paintings are pretty good, actually.
Wait, are you saying
God,
are you saying that sarcastically?
No, I was not saying that sarcastically. And then there's a picture. The reason I'm laughing is that there's a picture of him next to a side of meat on his Twitter feed, which I think is just great. Oh, this is a painting done by his friend. Okay. Hey,
oh wow, he's got some really interesting stuff. Look at that. Huh.
Port Washington, New York. That's not far from here. I could. Let's get a hold of this guy. Let's get a hold of Burt Young.
Burt Young. Yeah, you know who else is a painter? Titus Welliver.
Oh, really? Is
yeah, his father was a big famous painter, Neil Welliver.
Jeffrey, photographer of the week, Burt Young.
That's funny. Oh, my God.
All right, you think we did enough for today?
I think so.